everyone. You're all very welcome to another episode of Revenue Hack. We're kicking off December with the most amazing show ahead of us. We actually have Kelly Mortimer, wedding guru. We all know Kelly across the UK. And also across the world. She deals with a lot of places, EMEA, USA, everything. So this girl is the girl you need to talk to about weddings, planning, what you can do in your venue to get a lot more bookings. So we're so looking forward to this show. If you've got any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat box. You guys know the story now. You can see us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, if you want to keep up with everything behind the scenes. And we'll just kick off the episode with going around the room quickly just to say who we are, in case you've forgotten about us. It has been 2 weeks since we were last online. As you all know, I'm Khristina, Group Revenue Manager for JMK Group between the UK and Ireland, and also I'm a hospitality and tourism consultant. Hey Thomas, Finn, how are you? Regular with us here. Susanne, do you want to kick off?
Hi, I'm Susanne Williams. I'm the Revenue and Performance Director at Journey Travel. We are marketing and tech agency. And yeah, that's it.
B.
Yeah, hi, I'm the founder of Myosy, a consulting company helping hotels with anything optimizing revenue of any kind, basically, whether it's systems, people, and day-to-day work.
And last but not least, Kelly.
Hi guys, so my name is Kelly Mortimer and I work with wedding venues and wedding suppliers globally to help them to book more weddings and increase revenue across their business.
Perfect, thank you. So as you all know, if you've got any questions, please feel free to stick them in a message to us on the LinkedIn live chat box or else on YouTube, and we will read them out as we go through. Kelly, first of all, let's talk about weddings. It has just been a crazy year. You have been so busy dealing with people over the last few weeks, and we've actually seen a lot of your stuff online in regards to Facebook and everything that you're doing at the moment. What are you finding at the moment is kind of going to be the key trend for 2022 and 2023 in weddings?
Look, I think that our couples are going to want to celebrate. They are going to want to get their friends and family together. And so people are always saying, oh my goodness, this is the end of big weddings and big spends on weddings and getting 200 people together. And it is not the end. It is definitely not the end. If anything, this just gives appetite to people to want to do it when they can. And so, yes, we will have those micro weddings. We will have people who say, I only ever wanted 15 people anyway. And that's great. And we love those. But this is not the end of big weddings. They are coming back as soon as possible. And there will be a hunger for it from our clients.
I love the way you say that, because there's just so many venues here sitting probably looking at this today and kind of going, well, what are we able to do in the next few months to be able to capture that? Because we are running into the season to get engaged. You know, people always get engaged at Christmas. It's winter.
100%. And if you know, for any of our American viewers, that comes earlier than it does in other parts of the world, because that starts with Thanksgiving. But for the rest of us, it's mostly over the holiday season, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and then a little trickle over onto Valentine's as well. But typically we will see 40% of all engagements happening over this time period. And so what happens is I see people get complacent because those inquiries are coming in. They think, great, we've kicked off the year really strong. We're going to do really well. They don't maximize conversion across this time period, which means that as it trickles off February, March, then they're back to square one. So the conversion has to happen now. You've got to get those inquiries in and convert them over this time period to really maximize the diary.
I've got a question then, Kelly. If you've got 40% coming in over the next, Christmas, New Year, and it's quite typically short on staff, or everyone's busy dealing with X, Y, and Z, how do you qualify each inquiry? What's the qualification process? You can give advice.
That's a really good question. So what we'll find is that most of it's going to come from Christmas Day onwards. So where we typically see our teams busy with Christmas, and I know obviously this year's different, but typically we see everybody very, very busy in December with other things. What we see is that actually people are on skeleton staff on those first couple of weeks of Jan, because there's not big events happening in the hotel, there's not things going on, and actually we do need to make sure that our office team are well equipped to be answering those inquiries and booking as many tours as possible, and to check that we are getting them in within a 10-day to 14-day period. Because if the wedding couple has to wait more than 2 weeks, they're unlikely to actually come in anyway. So they might book a tour in 3 weeks, but they won't make it because they'll choose somewhere else. So it's about also having the staff ready to be able to take that inquiry, answer it, and move them into a tour ASAP. In terms of qualification, I'm all about being super transparent on the website, on the information about my pricing, about the packaging, about those price points, so that when they come to us, they do already know those price points, from the minimum we're prepared to accept to the top luxury packages. And that way it qualifies it naturally, because they are not going to come to you if they just don't have anywhere near the right budget.
So do you think that people are really checking online, and that's quite important to have like a specific section, for example, on your website about weddings, whether it's showing what you can do and then the different packages? Do we have to have packages for weddings actually, or can it be like 100% tailor-made and dynamic?
So there's two questions there. The first one is about the online journey. And if your listeners take one thing from this conversation, let it be this, like newsflash, the online journey is so critical to our wedding sales journey for our couples. So for example, we typically see a wedding couple will be looking online between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. So the stats show us that all the big wedding websites get the most traffic 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Exactly when there is nobody to answer an email and answer a call, which is correct. By the way, don't start putting your teams in until midnight. But what that means is that online sales journey has to be really sleek and really compelling to move our couples straight to tour. So they should get everything they need on that section of the website, so that the only natural next step is to book a tour. And we don't have to faff around emailing back and forth with the venue, working it all out. It should be straight away. I've got everything I need. I can see the pricing. I can see my options. I'm ready to book my tour, and they click a button. So we need to move that journey faster. Our wedding couples are usually millennials at this point, mostly. And they are used to Amazon style shopping, right? They want a one button click, book in my tour. I don't want to wait for somebody to have to email me back. And I want to do it right now, 9 o'clock at night from my sofa. So we need to make that online journey really crystal clear: pricing, options, imagery, and one sleek call to action. Then the second part of your question was about packages. In terms of packages, I'm a big fan, actually. I'm a big fan. Because it makes it easy for couples to buy from us. So when we have an only bespoke option, it's hard work for a client to work out that budget and to understand what they're going to get. When you offer packages in a particular strategy and offer them a bespoke option, then you cover all your bases. Because what they can do is say, okay, I can see this package. I see for 10 grand, this is what I get. If I spend 25 grand, this is what I get. And if I only spend 3 grand, this is what I get. And it allows them to understand the price points and whether this is the right sort of venue for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
mentioning pricing, Kelly. Just a quick question. You're after kind of obviously putting out a total package price. Do you recommend to your clients to actually look at posting total package prices rather than actually per person prices? Or, what are your top tips on that one? Because I know for a fact that people in particular in Ireland do like to see the total price rather than working out it's £45 per person per head for dinner and then an extra £10 or £6.50 for the finger food. It all adds, it's constant numbers, basically.
Right. This is exactly what I'm saying. And what you said, like your couples in Ireland prefer not to have to make that effort. That isn't just in Ireland, that's across the world. Look at how fickle we are as human beings now. We don't want to make effort. We can't be bothered. If you make us click too many times on a website, we'll jump off. Imagine if your couple, before even coming for a tour, have to work out the cost for their 3-course dinner, then add champagne, then add a dance floor, then add this, then add that. It's too much effort for our couples. And so really what we want to do is with those packages, we're breaking it all down for them. You definitely need an add-on list so that they can keep up selling, keep building up that package, but at least give them that package to start from. And so I'm a big fan of that. And I think we should be telling people whether it's price per head total or box pricing, and that's different depending on your venue. So some venues work very well on overall box pricing, such as 15,000 for 150 people, blah, blah, blah. Some people prefer £79 a head, minimum 50 guests, and then you work out the total. That's fine, as long as we're not asking them to make too much effort.
Do you think, based on the pricing now and the situation that we're in currently, that having a minimum pricing is a little bit restrictive for properties at the moment, especially for couples who are very much kind of like, looking for, well, with the virus 2022, we're not quite sure, but we want to definitely set the date. However, it might go from 200 to 50 people. and there might be a minimum there at 60. Do you think having that is very restrictive? It's like advanced purchase?
Yeah. So the way I teach my clients to do it is with a rate matrix, which is visible to the client. So it's not a behind the scenes matrix. It would show all the different pricing for different years and different days of the week or months, for example. So you might have things like, low season, mid season, high season, but you would specify your months because they don't know what the difference is. And then they can cross check, a bit like when you're trying to find a flight. Remember when we used to find flights, and we would look at the dates and the different flight times and across the top, and you could just match up the one that suited your budget. And that's the way I show my clients to actually price their wedding packages, because it gives flexibility to the client so they can actually work out a price that suits their budget. And also what we want to do is obviously get them locked in as fast as possible and upsell them later. So the way I teach my clients to sell is actually to have those 3 price points on a very basic level: low, mid, and luxury, to make it super simple. And ultimately, as long as the client has booked and has signed a contract, they can later either move up to a better package, or they can simply add on from your upsell list to make that a higher spend wedding. So that way the couple feels comfortable, they've got the right date, they've got the right price, and they've locked in at the lowest rate. And then later we can worry about adding more things on.
I love that, because obviously you're touching into our favorite subject, because that is our title, revenue hacks. And I know B is probably going to come with questions about this now as well. But, we've seen for years, we've worked in hotels for years, all of us, you included, Kelly, revenue and sales always come together. And they always butt heads. Revenue and wedding people always come together and butt heads. I don't know how many times through the years I would have given out to either wedding coordinators or the managers in MICE who actually undersold my bedrooms, because obviously it allowed for possibly the bigger upsell. Might not have happened, it may have happened on the day. Where do you think we need to start fixing these relationships going forward, especially to build a better future for the properties and for both our industries?
Yeah, well, I'm obviously biased because weddings has always been my niche. For 21 years that I've been in hospitality, I've always been in the wedding corner. And so, of course, I'm a little bit biased. However, I do feel, I'm going to be careful how I say this, sometimes the wedding market is undervalued. And I think it's changing. It's slowly changing. We're starting to see the value. But we often see that if you have a potential corporate booking of 10 grand, the flags come out, the personalized cupcakes are on the table, the GM comes out, the red carpet. Yet every weekend in some venues, you've got potential 10 grand after 10 grand after 10 grand walking in the door, and no one even knows about it. It's like, it's quiet, right? And so I feel that if we were to look at the actual value of those events, of those wedding events, then we might start to see weddings in a different way. Previously to starting my company, I was group wedding sales director for a group of 45 hotels. And I had a team of 50 wedding coordinators across those groups. And I would say to them, you're not fluffy. Stop letting people say that because you're a wedding coordinator, you're fluffy. You are bringing in revenue, and you need to go to that revenue meeting and say, on Saturday, I've got 50 grand walking in the door to do 5 show rounds at an average spend of 10 grand, let's say. And let your GMs know, let your revenue managers know, because ding, 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 they're going to think, oh, hang on, 50 grand. Let's make sure the lobby's looking nice. Let's make sure the flowers out. Let's make sure ops have tidied up the ballroom, And so it's when we start putting those figures on that we start having that better kind of reaction. And so I was always encouraging my team to kind of come at it more from a business perspective rather than just kind of thinking about it from, oh, I'm taking care of my couple kind of side.
That's an astonishing failure of leadership from a GM's perspective, if that's the case, isn't it? I mean, my God, I think starting from bringing it back to a revenue point, identifying what your plan is for the next 12 to 18 months and identifying wedding business could be 40% of our business mix, and then that changes the rhetoric in the property there and then. I've got a question just about how you help properties identify what's the most is it profitable to increase wedding business? So if you've got leisure and your demand's good, profitability's there, but they're thinking, I'm going to diversify my segments a little bit. Is weddings the right way to go? Can you help them define whether that's a profitable segment to target, and how do you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, to be honest, most of my clients are already either on their journey in the wedding industry, or they've started a little bit, or they've been going for ages and now their bookings are coming down. But the reality is most venues are able to offer some sort of wedding option, whether that's small rooms, bigger rooms, garden space for tents and teepees. There's pretty much no venue at this point that wouldn't be able to offer some level of wedding option. And you don't even need to be, obviously every country has different legislation, but, for example, in England, where we need to have a licensed structure to have a civil ceremony, now we have celebrants who don't need to have that license. You don't even have to have anything. I've got some of my clients literally have fields, and, they just contact the TP and the marquee companies. So if you've got a space, you have the possibility to offer that for weddings. Now, why is that a good thing to get into right now? And everything I hear is, let's all leave the wedding industry. The wedding industry is on its knees. What a disaster. And I don't see that. I genuinely don't see that. And I don't see it for a couple of reasons. I have some of my clients who are furiously buying up wedding venues because they see the profit. And they already have some, and obviously this is a market where they can start buying them up. They know the profit is there. The other thing is, our corporate clients, they're not booking right now. They're not going to be that bothered, are they, about booking their conference right now? Whereas somebody who wants to get married is going to want to get married. That desire is going to be there. They're going to want to book. And we can start securing that revenue for 2022. We know it's coming. We're getting that deposit, that cash flow in, and we know that money's going to be there. Then we worry about upselling them as we go through the journey and keep adding that money on.
I think that's very interesting, because I do remember working in wedding venues for quite some time. And again, I do think weddings are very undervalued, but I also think it's because people in the hotel industry don't really understand the background, the allocation, how hard it is for someone to actually set up a wedding, sell a wedding, get the packages in order, get all the meetings together. But from a rooms perspective, the likes of myself and everyone else that kind of watches as well, people don't understand that brings additional revenue. And Susanne is very much focused on the total revenue. And now the hospitality industry is going that way in the last years, in the last 9 months especially, that now we're looking at that. So it's no longer just, oh my God, she's given a cheaper price in the room to compensate. But no one really looks at the additional bar spend that goes with that room price. Fair enough, it might be £65, €65. However, you're getting an extra 65 in the bar, the late bar, that you've made.
Can I share with you my bar spend was £9,000 on a 100 people wedding. 9,000 just on the bar after dinner.
Yeah, I think it's changing the mindset. It's kind of like the same logic as with casino, where like the room is insignificant. Like this, it doesn't really matter. We just need to think about the overall, the rest of the revenue, and that's where we still have an issue, because we don't have, or we don't use the metrics that we may have to look at that and at the total revenue or total RevPAR, or however we want to call it, compared to just this room night that is just one Saturday night, killing my weekend, etc. So I think of course there are some that, it's going to kill my weekend, but it's about okay, overall, what does it bring me? And maybe work better also, and that's a question for you, Kelly. How do we diversify, and maybe we don't get all the weddings on the same Saturdays, etc. And how do we get them to come on Sunday night, whether it's more of I don't know, we're targeting Jewish weddings or we're targeting other type of weddings? How do we do that?
Absolutely. So, when I was in the 5-star hotels in London, the Jewish market was my niche. I love it. It's amazing. So definitely you're absolutely on with the Sundays. But of course, not everybody is in an area where that's going to work for them.
Yeah.
And we actually bring it back to the way I do my pricing matrix with my clients. Because we're showing couples the difference in the cost, depending on the month and the day and the year, they're then able to think, I'm going to be able to have a better package, more people, an extra course, more champagne if I take a different day. And one of the benefits to actually this situation, because I'm all about finding the opportunity in the negative, is that couples are much more comfortable and flexible to get married on a different day. They know there is now a backlog of people who want to have weddings. There's only 52 Saturdays available. And so we're already seeing my clients, my venue owners are already telling me their brides and grooms are much more flexible now about taking a Tuesday. And so we will see that much, much more.
I don't think any of us would be happy to take a day off to go to a wedding on a Tuesday. There's always something great about having it on a Thursday, so you can roll a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday. Or a Monday. I don't mind missing a Monday. If someone wants to have a wedding on a Monday, that's totally fine with me. Kelly, you mentioned about the journey. Do you think hotels don't invest enough money into the actual website on the wedding section? Because we've seen this over time. Susanne has mentioned this over time. B has mentioned this over time. And a lot of our team in the past, you know, we need to start paying for the product that we have. And we also need to showcase it in the best way. And do you think virtual tours are probably the way to go now over the next few weeks and months and years?
Okay, great questions. So first of all, 100% right in terms of the online journey, investing in that section of the website. And it doesn't have to mean lots of money. It might be an investment of time to really look at it, guys. Look at your journey today with a fresh pair of eyes and think, if I land on this as a newly engaged person, am I wowed? Am I inspired? Am I seeing aspirational images? Do I see things that make me gasp and think, oh, I need my wedding to look like that? You know, am I really getting that reaction? Am I telling a story, explaining all the options? And then is there one clear call to action? And that clear call to action should be book a tour, not make an inquiry. So just that one part is just really so important to just revisit the online journey and make sure we're delivering all the information they need to actually go straight ahead and book a tour. And then I can't remember the second part of your question. Remind me.
Virtual tours. So do you think properties should actually start investing into virtual tours?
No, I actually don't. And I'm going to explain why and what I think we should do instead. I know you didn't think I was going to say that.
No, I did not. Oh my God, I'm actually shocked. Genuinely.
I love the surprise. Okay, here's what it is. The biggest part of a conversion to a booking is the human connection and the way we deal with them during the tour. Susanne's nodding. She knows exactly what I'm talking about. So a lot of what I teach when I teach conversion to venues is actually about what you do before you show them the venue. Because the mindset of your couple, when they view the product, has to be very specific. So they view the product through certain glasses, if you like. And so if we only show a virtual tour where there is no human connection, where all of the basis is on two things, product and price, you will convert less bookings. Product and price is not what you want your conversion based on, because you can't drop your price, and most of us can't change our product. So there's no control there of conversion. And so actually what I prefer is that we book a virtual Zoom call with a wedding planner. You are able to have that connection, that chat, that question. They might simultaneously share screen so that they can, walk you through the space. So that video might be there, but the human person has to really walk them through on the Zoom call. And that way, when they, let's say the video showing the ceremony room, and maybe the groom says, oh, so where do I stand? Where do I walk in? You can pause the video, explain how it goes, explain where everybody's going to come in, explain how it's going to sound, where the musicians are. If that was a virtual tour, you would have none of that, and it would come straight down to product and price. So I'm not a big fan of unaccompanied virtual tours. I think what we need is that it's book a virtual tour with a wedding planner. That's your call to action during a lockdown. And that goes onto a Zoom call with a real human person.
So no virtual tour, like empty basically, but to reply to this guest journey, the question that we had earlier, like we still need to show how it will look like, right? So that means showing actual weddings that already happened, or like videos of what happened, or pictures, or I don't know, linked to.
What we need is really strong imagery, because the images will, when they're right, will be enough to compel that person then to click the book a tour or click a virtual tour with a planner. So it's the images that give you the strength to move them along the journey. Now, what most people get wrong, and one of the biggest issues whenever a new client comes to me, and I'll go straight to their website and I'll be like, I'm not surprised that you're not getting inquiries and you're not booking tours because your imagery is shocking. And that is, guys listening, go and look at your images. Would you book you? And I've sat in so many strategy meetings with general managers, with commercial directors of groups, of some of the biggest brands across the world. And I flashed up pictures of their own weddings on their own websites. And I've said, who here would book this wedding? And they all say no. They all say no, we wouldn't book that wedding. We don't want that sort of wedding. And I say, well, why do you expect other people to? Nobody wants purple chair covers and bows anymore. Like, stop it. What's that?
I actually seen some of the pictures that you have, and it's, you know, you put a lot of time into working with your properties on the imagery in particular, and it's always it's very floral, it's very out there, but it's also very, as well, going back to the basics with them really nice rattan chairs, you know, the stuff that people make a difference. And I've actually seen people, some properties get it right already from the get-go. There's a few hotels, particularly in Istanbul, that I actually used to work with very, very closely, and they opened a huge property that just does weddings, and they got it right from the get-go, I have to say. And Turkish weddings are massive. They're like Jewish weddings. It's a big affair. It goes on for ages, and that's great. But, you know, we've all seen where it's almost like a spray. It's like a funeral. No one wants to book a hotel that looks like a funeral party.
This is the problem, right? That most venues or hotels believe that couples only want to see real weddings. And if you were to ask a bride, do you want to see pictures of a real wedding? She'd say, yes, I do. But that isn't the truth, and people don't always know what they need. What they actually need is to see how this space can look amazing without spending $1 million. And so what I do with my clients is show them how to create aspirational looks that are not your cheap package option, which might be a few add-ons, will be a few add-ons. So I'm dressing the space within the budget of my ideal client, but at the top of it. And so what that does is continue to attract more people. It helps them to spend more. When we create images for my venue clients, what happens is couples simply say, I'll have that. I'll have that look. Those chairs, those plinths, those flowers, because they can see it. And they upgrade to everything because we put it in front of them. But most venues are only showing previous weddings, but previous weddings are styled by amateurs because most couples are amateurs at wedding planning. We're the professionals. We have to show this is the best way this space can look. And when you do that, you attract more inquiries, higher spend couples, and you convert more weddings. So images are absolutely critical in the whole process.
Nice. I'm just thinking there because you actually mentioned, so I've got two questions. I've got one we'll leave for towards the end. We'll give you the one towards the end. But you did mention that you said in strategy meetings with GMs, with brands, with loads of different clients, because you work globally. What are your top tips in building a wedding strategy that ties in with hotel revenue and overall total revenue?
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to decide where wedding sits in your revenue plan. You know, if you are making most of your revenue, your profit on corporate and bedrooms, then I get it. You don't want to focus a huge amount of time, money, effort, hold dates in your diary for that. I get it 100%. And that might not be right for every venue. But there are lots of venues who do want to take those weekends and have them full of weddings instead of having their space sitting empty. And if that is the case, then great, then work out, you know, yes, we are going to give those Saturdays to the wedding team to sell, and we're not going to, you know, block them out for other things. And so it's just deciding, is this a part of the market you want? Because our industry is worth over 10 billion in the UK. And so if you want some of that market, then, you know, then we're going to need to agree that those dates are set aside and that we're going to have some help, some money, some time, some effort into actually driving the business. Because the other thing I see is a lot of, and I'm being a bit mean now about GMs, but saying, you know, we want more weddings, you need to sell more weddings, but then never telling the team how. And that's what really used to upset me all the time, that I would see these revenue meetings and you just see the GM getting really annoyed. You know, we're not getting enough inquiries. You're not converting enough. Where are all the tours this weekend? Go, sell more weddings. Okay. How? Like, you've got to tell your team how. And that's where I was able to bridge the gap because I could see the steps that needed to be made. And I think the other thing, just following on from that, is that we have to be clear that the inquiry part at the top of the funnel is at a senior management level. It's the conversion that is then down to the event sales, wedding planner person that you have dealing with the inquiries and the tours. The conversion is their part. If they're not getting in enough at the top of the funnel, you can't ask your wedding coordinator to drive that. That's sales and marketing. That's Facebook ads. That's listings. That's the images on your website. And that is senior management. And I think sometimes we put this part of the top of the funnel in the middle to the wedding coordinator, and that's quite unfair.
I have to say,
from Olga, actually, sorry, because it thinks that, so should the hotel consider having a license for weddings and civil partnership? Can it be one of the extra tick actually to help?
Yeah, I mean, most venues do. So if it's part of their overall, if they do want weddings as at least a part of their revenue, then most do have a license to host legal weddings. Although, if you are listening and you do not have that, and you're like, I don't have time to worry about that, remember that today we have, especially in England, Wales, celebrants who will host the ceremony, and you can, do the legal part separately, and actually have a celebrant come in the middle of a field on top of a mountain on a rooftop terrace and do the ceremony. It doesn't have to have any legal restrictions to it, and that's becoming really popular now, is to actually use celebrants. So that, you don't have to, but it's great if you do.
I love how she said that, because in Ireland over lockdown, at the first lockdown, we've actually seen people get married in Dublin Airport. Dublin Airport got a license. So if an airport can get a license, hotels can do it too. And the Houston station, a railway station here in Dublin, it's like the biggest one in the country, actually did it as well. It is actually really cool. And you see people kind of changing their ways and no longer looking at all these big weddings. It's not even a micro wedding. It's just them, the celebrant, maybe a witness, because you need to have a witness. It's just really cool that couples now have gone from being very bling, very out there, wanting 200, 300, 400 people at a wedding to, just being themselves and just being so intimate, because that's what it is. And they're going to have a huge celebration, as you said.
Yeah.
Once it's safe to do so, and once lockdown is over. But when you're going back to what you mentioned about strategy, it's clear though, when you're saying that obviously the GM should be funneling down this information and helping. It just goes to show that, again, this is another area in our industry that people aren't trained properly. There's no real education. And, Tom Finn is watching this now, and I can guarantee you he's shaking his head and he's nodding to say, I totally agree with you guys. There needs to be a lot more investment into education for hospitality sector in the UK, in Ireland, and across the world. Because, again, just like revenue, sales marketing is another one that's always kind of left there. And it's like going into a hotel, being a receptionist and learning your way around, and then falling into a sales role, falling into a revenue role, or falling into a GM role.
I've got to make a point here. See, if you've got somebody that's a good commercial person that understands operations, if you follow your rules and aspirational images, you're creating that need and that want, then your revenue manager should be leading, informing and influencing the top to say, no, I'm not going to book out every Saturday. I'm going to start booking out a Monday, because you know what? Our proposition's good and people are going to buy it and it's going to convert, because it does not matter what day of the week you get married. Revenue managers should be petitioning their top level management to drive more revenue Sundays, Mondays and Tuesdays. You don't have to book out every weekend, people. Let's get it right. Create the image that we're seeing, the aspiration, and people will book it. It's that simple.
Absolutely. And they will book it more now because of all these changes that have happened. They're much more flexible. But it was interesting what you said about the GM. So the amount of time, that, especially for the groups and the chains where I'm booked to go and talk to them about strategy for weddings, and when I walk in, let's say it's 8 a.m. on whatever day, or before, when we used to be able to meet up and do things in person, and I could see all the GM's faces like, oh my goodness, we do not want to have to listen to this girl talk about weddings all day. And as soon as you start talking actually about the revenue and the profit and showing them spreadsheets, they're like, oh, okay, she's not talking about bows and flowers. This is actual money that I can influence coming into my property. And then it becomes much more exciting for them. So I always enjoy those days where I walk in and I see their faces like, please don't talk to me about weddings all day. And it changes fast.
I love Olga's question. Olga actually is a previous host on Revenue Hack. So hey, Olga, it's great to see you. Is there a point for hotels to attend wedding shows, and is it become a thing of the past? And should people be spending money on the brand? That is a really good question, because we've seen so many huge events cancelled this year.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that there is a time and a place. I think that hosting our own open days and shows, when done in a particular way, which we don't have time to go in detail at, not in the old-fashioned way, but in a new way, does still drive good footfall and good conversion. Some of the shows convert. So sometimes I'll speak to venues and they'll tell, we have a local show in our city and it's great. The right people come through the doors. But there are other shows where it's not the right people. It's not your ideal client. They're never going to book. And so it is a question of looking at that show and thinking, are my ideal clients going to be there? Because if they're not, it's not going to be for you. The other thing is, think about the time of year. We generally see shows at 2 times in the year. Q1, somewhere around end of Jan, beginning of Feb, and then usually something like October, November. And what you will see is your conversion as a venue will be much better in the Q1 when we've got that big influx of proposals and you've got 40% of people ready to book a venue, which is one of the first decisions. If you go to the October, November show, you will likely see a lower conversion because people have found their venues and they're normally now thinking about suppliers at those shows. So it's a yes and a no sometimes. However, if I was working with you and you had a limited budget, it wouldn't be where I'd put the budget. I would make sure my online offering was really hot because that's where people are going to go first. We know what people do. They sit on their couch, they type into Google, wedding venue London, wedding venue Brighton, wedding venue Paris, and then they see what comes up. They either find you on a listing or they find you because your SEO is amazing or somebody told them about your venue, so they type that into Google. And then what they see is going to determine about whether they book a tour. So I would be spending money on making my online journey really good and then driving traffic, and Facebook ads is a great way to drive very targeted traffic to your website because you can siphon the people who have just changed their status to engaged, and this is going to be massive in January. So when you're looking at Facebook ads spend, January, what you want to target is people who have just changed their relationship status to engaged because they're your prime audience, and target by geography so that you're getting just those people. It's incredibly targeted marketing, and you can then send those ads to those people and drive them to your website.
I love that because I don't think many people actually know that you can actually get so granular on Facebook. You can actually go into it's kind of worrying when you look at our data as well, how it's been shared with everybody, but you know, it's great for us as a tool. Does that mean then that show around, or not actually, like, you know, open days at hotels are kind of a dead thing, do you think?
No, I don't. I think they need to be done well. So there's sort of 2 different camps here. You've got one which is just an open day where people are coming for kind of tours, which obviously with COVID, people are pre-booking, which is much better anyway. And then you've got more of the kind of open day or the fair or the showcase. But what we need to do with those is make them an experience. Too often, we're doing the old-fashioned thing. You've got box linen trestle tables everywhere. It looks like a market stall. The couple walks in, they're just sold, everything's thrown at them. It's not enjoyable for them. They're not going to book. Your venue doesn't look amazing. It looks like a market stall. So what we need to do is have these showcases looking like a wedding. The whole room should be set beautifully. Don't let the florist put orange flowers on this table, blue flowers on that table, red chairs over here, gold chairs over here, because your venue will look crap. What you want is a beautiful, cohesive look so it feels like they're walking into a wedding. And then have the suppliers either without trestle tables, make them have something more exciting, or in different rooms so there's more of a journey. Have music playing, have cocktail making classes happening, have people giving little master classes or understanding about calligraphy, or, you know, make it a real experience so that people are also then telling their friends about it and putting it on Instagram. So you also get the PR that way too.
Neil's just asked about hosting wedding fairs. There you go. That's your answer. We really jumped the gun on that one. Kelly, you mentioned quickly about automatic emails over Christmas and, you know, even in general, actually, because it's all just, everyone uses templates. And I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of templates. It's all about personalization. You need to make it more tailored and personalized to the guest based on the wording in their email and everything. Yeah. What are your top tips for emailing guests over this Christmas period and also this furlough period? Because I'm going to call it the furlough period because, again, we're on lockdown. It's great. We're all back on screen again, actually. And lockdown starts. I'm sorry, we did not plan it that way. Don't blame us for that one, yeah?
Okay, so I teach my clients a very specific format that I've created for emails that turn into show rounds. Now, I'm just going to start this off again by saying I want you to look at your journey in a whole nother way. And I want your website to start saying, click here to book a tour, click here to book a show round. Take off the click here to make an inquiry. You're adding extra steps, extra work for your team that is not necessary. If your online journey is good enough, you've shown your pricing, you've shown the rooms, you've shown these amazing imagery, you've shown them everything, the next step in the journey is a tour. It's not to email your team and waste hours of going back and forth and you getting lost in their inbox. But if we do need to send emails, then we need to stop using the same old phrases that every single venue uses from here to Timbuktu, which is, congratulations on your engagement and thanks ever so much for your inquiry. So who's going to admit in the chat box that they are currently sending this out? Because literally every hotel in the world starts their email this way, and it is so generic and bland that if your couple is emailing 10 venues and they all come back saying the same thing, imagine she's going to be like, what? Okay. Whereas if yours starts off with something a bit more exciting, a bit more compelling and emotional, it's going to stick in their mind and, oh, great, these guys are not like everybody else. Have that one clear call to action within that email. Make sure you're saying, here's my 3 next times for a tour, or again, click here to book a tour, whatever it is that you're doing. But don't say, when you're ready to visit us, I'd be delighted to show you around. Just let me know, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, give a clear call to action. The next thing to do is to book a tour, and here are my next 3 available times. Just hit reply and let me know which one suits you best. Make it really straightforward. The more you ask a customer to think, the less they will do. It's just human nature.
And then when it comes to it, do you think we bombard them with too much information? Because I know from the past, it's almost like sending a group. When you're sending a group request out to people, it's the same thing. You just don't bombard them with loads of information. Give them the basics and kind of reel them in using imagery and your words, basically, to actually power.
So remember, for me, I'm encouraging everybody to put everything on the website anyway. So there shouldn't be a need to copy paste your entire web page onto an email. And actually the structure I teach my clients is just 4 simple paragraphs. So I teach them a 4 short paragraph template, which then they personalize, they change the words, they change the availability, and they make it suit their venue. Again, if you remember nothing else from this session, the more you write, the less they read. The more you write, the less they read. So if you want them to read it, write less. Because most people are just going to scan this massive kind of email full of too much information and just looking for the key things they need to know. So write less and they will read more.
I'm just thinking, should we just start putting everything up as Instagram stories? Because everyone just scrolls anyways and just keeps looking at Insta stories. Is that the next thing for wedding venues, though? That is the question.
Sorry, once again?
Insta stories. Do you think that's the next big step for wedding venues for sure?
If you're not using stories, what are you doing? Start using them right now. Absolutely. We know that stories get good views, they pop up right at the top. We're in an Instagram social media culture. And if we're not embracing that as a business, then we're definitely losing business. They want to see behind the scenes, what's going on, what chef cutting up in the kitchen, what the gardener's planting, and they're so quick and easy to do, and they're gone in 24 hours. So you don't have to have them all perfectly polished and branded like your grid. You can just let people in behind the scenes as you go through.
I really like that. Kelly, before we go, what is your ultimate top tip for people or what is the one thing you ask people to get organized now for engagement season?
I mean, we've said it, to be honest, it's got to be your online journey. Picture your couple on Christmas Day. They just got engaged. Obviously, there's no one in your sales office. Go to your online journey right now. Look at your Instagram. Look at your web page. What are your couple going to see? Are they going to have enough information that will compel them to take the next step? Or is the imagery amazing? Are you showing every gorgeous place that they can have their photos, their ceremony, their dinner? Make sure that journey is there. Give them one clear call to action. Click here to book a tour, and make sure that that journey is super, super streamlined, because they are going to be stalking you. And bonus tip, we do see an increase in traffic to wedding websites a couple of weeks before Christmas, because people know they're going to be proposed to, and they actually start looking for their venue before the ring goes on. So get this stuff lined up now.
I'm literally shocked here. I got engaged on a default. We weren't even talking, and this was in the middle of the summer. Genuinely. It's actually really, really insightful. And thanks a million for joining us today, Kelly, because I think it's opened a lot of brainwave activity, especially for me. And I would have thought that I would have known a good bit about weddings, having worked as a wedding coordinator years ago. But it's crazy to think how the world has changed and what we can do in the future to drive it and get everyone more talking about them and seeing the total aspect of it, not just the fact that it's driving F&B revenue, or it's something, and it could be once a month, twice a month, or even 5 to 6 weddings a month.
Yeah.
You know, it's about having that total. And I like the idea of actually having your coordinators come to revenue meetings saying 50 grand is on the table there this weekend. You all need to make out, and it's about everyone making a collaborative effort for sure.
Yeah. And guys, if you want one final stat to show how the market has changed, because it just reminded me when you said there, and I'm in the boat with you. You know, I started as a wedding coordinator when I was 21 years ago. And so the market has changed, and it's about dealing with the market the way it is today and the way the buyer is. But here's an epic stat, and this is a pre-COVID stat. So I imagine that we will see this just going even more so. What percentage of couples do you think only see one venue in person? One venue in person. The percentage of couples.
I'd say it's quite big, because we only seen one venue.
Aye.
I'd say it's like
20%.
That's huge.
20% of couples will research online and then walk into one venue and say, yes, this is our venue, and sign the contract. So when venues tell me, if we get them in the door, we convert, I know you do. It's all about what happens before they get there. And actually what we see is, on average, 66% of couples will see 3 venues or less. So they're streamlining their top 3 and then walking in the door of 3. And this is a pre-COVID stat. So for sure, this is obviously going to just go up from now on.
Oh, that is just crazy. People, get your online working right now. Start working on your pictures, taking good quality pictures and get them up and make it look inviting, lavish, you know, like a wedding, not like a morgue and a funeral home. We don't do funeral homes. It's true though. It is so true. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. It's been absolutely fantastic to have you on the show. Just a reminder, tomorrow there is an inclusion diversity talk, and it's all about mental health and well-being, everything you need to know about lockdown and how to keep yourself sane, which is super. It's on at 2 p.m. BST time here on LinkedIn Live, and it's going to be absolutely super in conjunction with WHTT. We will be back next week. It's great. We're on a 4-week roll. We're going to be talking about everything MICE, M&E, which is super. And we've got some more people joining us over the next few weeks. So it's going to be amazing. We've got a whole big bright plan over the coming weeks about revenue hacks. Kelly, thank you again for today. From me, from the lovely ladies, thank you so much. And we'll see you all next week. Bye.